It's this jack-in-the-box trick I want to talk about, right? He's got that really good way of moving about the field where he finds the gap in between defenders. 6'3" Erling Haaland has been bullied by 5'7" Martinez in this game, hasn't he?
Martinez 1, Paul Scholes 0. Ruben who? Manchester United 2, Manchester City 0. Knockout performance under new boss Michael Carrick in the Manchester derby. Lifts United up to 5th and all but hands Arsenal the Premier League title with Manchester City now 7 points off the top of the league. I'm Will Pugh, that right there, Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. This is Tactics Exposed, and as ever, we will be looking, Dino, at 5 tactical points from that game. Saturday lunchtime. What a win, what a start for Michael Carrick. Man United fans up and down the lad, beaming from ear to ear this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not Blue Monday for those Reds fans in Manchester, is it? Absolutely. And the other thing about it is it was absolutely flattering, that game, to Manchester City, because United battered them. It was brilliant to watch, wasn't it? So, yeah, 5 points. Number one, thank Bruno. Not enough people over the last couple of days have been talking about how good that performance was from Bruno Fernandes, the captain, and it's this jack-in-the-box trick I want to talk about. Number two, Brian Adam. You having that one? Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Please forgive me. Yeah, it's amazing movement from backwards and forwards from Bryan Mbeumo, and something we talked about in the Team Talk show beforehand. Number three was the midfield bouncers. Kobbie Mainoo with his uncle Casemiro in there. Absolutely sensational from those two. They're not quite similar in age to be brothers, are they? Number four is pass the parcel. Now, I talked about this in the Team Talk show as well, but how do you deal with Haaland? How do you deal with City's movement? And Martinez and Maguire absolutely schooled City. Absolutely brilliant what they did. And number five, who let the dog out? We've seen absolutely amazing, again, performance from him. And as a winger, which was a little bit of a surprise for me.
Yeah, look, number five, Dino, elite level stuff. You saved yourself there. Brian Adam, absolutely not. I don't know who's letting these ones get through, for goodness sake. Dino, look, we've called this show Told You So Exposed before, because we're not like those sort of other outlets who go, we don't like to. We do like to say we told you so.
That's the point, right?
Exactly, yeah. One of the comments that I like the most on YouTube, thanks very much, by the way, for everyone who gets stuck in the comments. So let us know what you think of what me and Dino have to say. Said these shows, this is a Team Talk show on Thursday previewing this game, these shows should come with a spoiler alert because of all the stuff you got right, because you picked loads of it, namely sort of 30-odd% possession, 32 I think Manchester United had. You got the lineup pretty much spot on with Mbeumo playing up top. You said they couldn't fit all the forwards in. It was Matthias Cunha and Mason Mount who had to give way. You got lots of it. Lots of it on the nose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the one thing that was a slight surprise was Dorgu as the left winger instead of Cunha, and then Shaw at left back. But obviously Carrick got that absolutely 100% right, and we'll see why in a minute as that worked out. But yeah, I mean, look, go back to 2019. Man United beat Manchester City with Carrick and Solskjaer as the coaching staff, and this was almost not a copy of that. The Man United team now is better than it was then, but it was very much sit, soak it up and go on the counter-attack. But one big thing for me before we get to Bruno and point one is how much the Man United players obviously bought into it. And you said at the top there, Ruben who, and it was completely different. They were committed, they were flying into tackles, they got the crowd on side early on, and they played a big part at Old Trafford as well. And the whole feel of it was very different. And I feel almost a little bit sorry for Amorim that those players pull out a managerial bounce performance like that. But in 3 days, fair play to Carrick and the coaching staff, namely Steve Holland as well, who we will come back to because I forgot about him in the Team Talk show. But yeah, really, really good performance.
Yeah, well, Carrick said that after the game. He was really pleased with how he was able to get the players to emotionally buy in just a couple of days. One thing, Carrick was asked about his sort of tactical approach. He was loath to sort of say that he'd picked holes in Pep Guardiola's system, but there's a couple of bits that he mentioned in that interview that we'll get onto. But let's go first of all, Dino. You've wanted to do it for a while. Bruno Fernandes, talk about how good he was, and from a tactical point of view in particular.
Yeah, I mean, the Man United mafia, who we hear from most Mondays, have been very quiet this week because maybe because they don't.
Spring in your step this morning, haven't you?
But maybe I had a weekend off, and it was great. But yeah, maybe that's because they didn't want to be, they've been so critical of people like Bruno Fernandes that it's difficult then to step away from that. You know me, is all through these shows, for me, it's about how Man United get the best out of their best player. And this was that. This was whatever tactical shape we're going to select, it's going to be to free him up. So he doesn't have to do the donkey work in a double pivot. We got Casemiro and Kobbie there to do that, and we'll put Bruno in there. And for me, Bruno's understanding of what Carrick wanted him to do was absolutely incredible. So it's this jack-in-the-box trick I want to talk about, right? So there's a box line which runs in between the midfield, and they would have showed this on graphics and analytics before, in between the midfield and defensive line, okay? City's in midfield and defensive line. And what you want to happen is Bruno to occupy that position there, because it's off the back of Rodri. It's the space off the back of Rodri. So from there, you can go two ways. In the first instance, sometimes Luke Shaw gets the ball on the left. Bruno Fernandes goes in behind and stretches the defence in behind, and then that pushes the City line back. And on other occasions, he's off the back of Rodri. He comes deep to receive the ball into that space, and then he hooks it round the corner for Bryan Mbeumo to go from there. So it's really, really interesting. You can drop off Kusanov and Max Lane and go in there, but occupying in between the lines. And there were times when Man United won the ball back on the edge of their area where the instruction to Bruno is, don't go and get involved, because that's what he has a tendency to do, because he works so hard, right?
And he wants to win.
And he wants to win, you know, he wants to be part of it. Don't go and get involved in those scraps there anymore. You've got your men there to do that. And then what we want is when the ball breaks, we want the ball to come to you. So then that little nothing pass really from midfielders, all of a sudden fired into Bruno, he's then turning and going the other way and freeing that 4 or 5 man attack going. And it's absolutely amazing. The reason I call it Jack in the Box, the goal, okay, the Bryan Mbeumo goal, if we roll that back, it was a Manchester City free kick on the edge of the box. And you got your Jack in the Box, it's almost winding up, and the Man United players are almost ready to go and spring that attack. And as soon as one of them wins the ball back, all 4 of them have bought into the fact that we win it, we go. If 2 of them don't, it doesn't work. Yep. If one of them doesn't, it doesn't work. So Mbeumo wins it on the edge of the box, he flicks it round the corner to Bruno, and then they go. You've got Ahmad going one side, you've got Dorgu going the other, and Mbeumo overtakes Bruno, goes down the middle, and then the 4 of them are in exactly, if you take the 4-2 out, they're in exactly the 4-2, 3-1 shape that you are attacking with, which means Man City's defence doesn't know whether to stick or twist. Fabulous pass from Bruno and an even better finish. So it was that all afternoon. There was goals disallowed for offside. There was balls in behind where they just didn't quite get it. Bruno created 6 chances in the game. 4 of them led to big chances, as they're called by Opta, and the assist. And he had a goal disallowed for offside. United had another goal disallowed for offside after that. It was an unreal performance. And as an attacker, from the stats, no attacker has ever done that to a Pep Guardiola team in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff, Dino. And I think the Man United Mafia, if you're one of the Man United Mafia, get in the comments, won't you? Let Dino know what you think about that and what you think about Bruno's performance, of course. And Dino, he didn't just do his job going forward. Lots of criticism of Amorim before, of sort of asking him to do too much or Fernandes having to do too much in that system. But today, you spoke well there about what he did going forward. He still did some defensive work.
Yeah, and as I said in the Team Talk show, they will set up in a 4-2-3-1. But that 4-2-3-1, with a player like Bruno as the 10, then develops into a 4-4-2 in defensive positions, okay? So Bruno Fernandes as the 10 then goes alongside Bryan Mbeumo, and they sit in. The 2 wingers drop in to make that a 4-4-2. And as you quite rightly said there, a lot of the time, Bruno Fernandes goes ball hunting. And that moves the team about too much and they become a little bit dispersed across the field. But we can see from Man United's average average position map that they held that shape all the time. And the other clever thing they did, and it gave Man City a problem right from the beginning, was they targeted Max Lane, the young centre-back, and Bruno was key to this. So they didn't press him. Bruno and Mbeumo dropped off in their 4-4-2 shape and allowed Elaine to have the ball. And that meant everybody else is picked up. And Elaine's young. Look, I don't want to give him too much grief, but he didn't have the answer to that. He didn't know what to do in that position. So Pep being Pep, Bernardo Silva being Bernardo Silva, they then go and drop in. Bernardo went into a left-back position or a right-back position to go and get the ball, which is emptied midfield. and that means Man United have got an extra man over there. So that comes from Bruno understanding what Carrick wants from the press and don't go beyond the ball in a defensive shape. And then United do that in a defensive mid-block as well, 4-4-2, and City just didn't have any space to play. So they narrowed the space in between those lines, and it has to come from the leader of it. We talk about Odegaard for Arsenal, doing that as the leader of the press. He did that today. He was absolutely brilliant.
I think he did it Saturday.
Not today, But I've watched it again today. So.
Exactly, yeah. One thing I will say, Dina, that's kind of like that. What you're describing then, particularly for Manchester United at home against their rivals, is a difficult thing to do, isn't it? Because you're effectively sitting off, and you've been in grounds before, and so have I, where people, and I just, I say this advisedly, who I sometimes think don't necessarily understand football as well as some other people, are going, shut him down, press, all over the pitch. But teams like Manchester City...
You met the bloke who sits behind me.
And behind me at West Ham, the teams like Manchester City want you to do that, don't they? So it takes a real bit of discipline to sort of
exactly, and I talked about 30% possession in the Team Talk show as well, and that I think it was 31. Sorry, I was 1% out of 32. Okay, right, just slightly wrong. But being comfortable in not having the ball is as big a part of the modern game as anything else. Totally. And they were comfortable in that shape, but only, as I say, because they were so committed to the counter-attack when that opportunity came. And yeah, hats off, superb.
It's moist ball, Dino. It's moist ball. Bryan Adam. I'm not really...
Bryan Adams. I thought you might sing a bit of Bryan Adams for us there. Anyway, look, in the Team Talk show, I talked about him playing up there because he was the most mobile. What I failed to mention, really, was he's the best finisher as well, and most clinical finisher, and that showed with the goal, obviously. But the key thing tactically was, first of all, we've talked about before, he's going to get in between defenders. He's got that really good way of moving about the field where he finds the gap in between defenders. So if Bruno gets the ball and it breaks, he's in between, he's not there.
Occupying no one, but
occupying an important space. Yep. But what he did in this game was go the opposite way to the Man City midfield or defence. And that sounds a bit strange, but if Man City's midfield pushes up, and Mbeumo goes the other way and sits in between the two. If Man City's midfield drop back, he goes the other way and goes in between. And that then means that Bruno can go past him, Amad Diallo and Dorgu can go past him, and he's an option into feet because he's a great footballer. And there were times, there was one moment where, it was like a rondo around Cherki and Rodri at one stage, and United were sort of popping the ball about because Mbeumo had come from that line into there. And there was this amazing moment where I realised that what had been missing under Amorim was a bit of a belief in what they were doing, because the way that they played out from the back, Man United, to include Bryan Mbeumo in this, often when teams play out, they almost don't think about the striker, don't think about the centre forward. We're trying to get it up to him. But as I said in the Team Talk show, Carrick uses that number 9 to drop in to come and get the ball.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It was interesting because in the Team Talk show, to be fair, that was in response to a question about where Benjamin Šeško fits in the team. And you were saying it's the number 9 drops back and then he's the one that gets involved in the physical duels and stuff.
Yeah.
Although Mbeumo's not that aerial presence, he's a unit.
Absolutely, and he holds the ball on the ground as well. And so I actually was referring to that for future games when Šeško might come in, but we saw it straight away.
Same principle, though.
Yeah, exactly that. But use the striker in the build-up to give you that extra man, because we know that it's unlikely that a defensive 2 or 3 that Man City leave are going to come out all the way with you, because the amount of space they're leaving in behind. So they know that, Carrick and the coaching staff. They played it out. It was fantastic. Lamens plays it in to a midfielder. The centre-backs have split. Lamens plays it into a midfielder who then drags the City midfield out towards him. The bounce pass goes back into Harry Maguire. And because they've dragged the City midfield right behind the double pivot, that opens up all that space. Bryan Mbeumo comes in to receive the ball, and then he's got Bruno Fernandes, Amad Diallo and Dorgu all around him to play. So it was absolutely brilliant, and what it created for City was utter indecision. So when you've got an attacker like Bryan Mbeumo, the defensive line is what you want to be in a straight line. If you've got someone, look, I'm not having a go at Gyökeres, we've done other shows on that. You've got a striker like him who's looking...
Well, you have had a go at him.
But you're looking for the ball in behind all the time. As a defensive line, you go, right, we'll just hold the line. We just hold the line as a 2, 3 or 4, and then we know where he's going to go. If Bryan Mbeumo starts going into feet one side, and then you win the ball back and he's in between the two defenders, the two centre-backs are thinking, which way do we go? And that indecision that they created was part of the chaos, which meant they could then get 5 flyers going forward. So, yeah, excellent. Excellent tactically, the 9 and the 10.
Yeah, in any attacking position, in any team, the key to it, and I'm thinking Bukayo Saka already, the simplest form is when he stands up a defender. The defender doesn't know where he's going to go. As soon as you become predictable, that's sort of bad news as a forward player in it. Right, point number 3 then, Dino. Midfield bouncers. Kobbie Mainoo, out of favour and out of form under Ruben Amorim. We all expected that he was going to come back in under Michael Carrick. That's exactly what he's done. His introduction seems to have helped everyone, as does that system.
Yeah, and it's made a little bit. I know it's only one game, right? Okay, we're going to see what happens over the next 3 or 4 games. I can hear some of our pals in the comments going...
Man United mafia.
Yeah, exactly. But, yes, but it does make Amorim's decision and that whole free Kobbie Mainoo thing come to light straight away. For him to do this in the derby, first up, I mean, after an hour on the comms, they said it looks like his legs have gone and he might have to come off, and he was still going at the 90th minute and flying around the place. So he might have just taken a knock at that stage, to be fair. But what happened was he just worked with Casemiro. So obviously on the training ground this week, and the instructions before, is about the two of them actually playing as a 2. What's happened in that Man United midfield over the last 6 to 12 months is that there might be 2 in there, but they're never really working as a 2. One's gone up, one's gone back, one's gone wide, one's holding. These 2 were absolutely fantastic. So there was an occasion where Casemiro makes a mistake, Dorgu cuts inside and shoots, Kobbie Mainoo makes the block. There's your mate. They're working as a 2. And the reason I say midfield bouncers is 2 reasons. They were the muscle. They really, really out-muscled that Man City midfield. Foden didn't get a kick, and that's why he came off. And there was an occasion where Kobbie Mainoo sees the opportunity to go and close the ball down, might not get there, and Casemiro knows he might not get there, so he then comes for the second ball, which is the only place it can go after a knock-off pass from Man City. Casemiro wins the second ball, and then off they go on the counter-attack, Man United. So they were working like that all along. And remember in the Team Talk show, I said the key thing when you play a double pivot against Manchester City is that you have to sit in either side of your centre-backs. So if Maguire and Martinez are tight on Haaland, there's a space to the left of them and a space to the right of them, because your fullbacks get dragged out by the City wingers. So they did that brilliantly. And the occasion where Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro formed this little force field block around the corner of the area to stop City getting in the box. I mean, did they? I don't even think they had a shot on target, did they? You know, and that is a lot down to these 2 in getting into those positions where the second ball comes and you can't do it, okay? And look, that is Steve Holland. That is Steve Holland all over. So here's your mention. Maybe it was Steve Holland in a different name in the comments because they had a go at me for not mentioning Steve Holland. But Kobbie Mainoo did this in the Euros.
It's Gareth Southgate, maybe.
Yeah, well, but he did it in the Euros. Kobbie was playing centre midfield in the Euros. And what he does is he sort of hovers around the field. He's got that sort of languid running style, isn't he, where he sort of glides across the surface and moves around. And at its best, what that means is he sort of goes into an area and then the ball breaks and the Man City players think, I'm going to win this back. And Kobbie Mainoo just bounces the ball off to somebody else. A little bounce pass that then means you can go out the other side and Bruno Fernandes can get on the ball and you can free Amad Diallo, for example. And that was so, so good. And he did it both sides of the field. We'll see his touch map. He moves around like that. And that off-the-ball work is an absolute trademark of Steve Holland. He works with players off the ball. So if the ball breaks, where are you going to be? Not just, we know they're great footballers. We know when the ball's at their feet, they're going to do 9 times out of 10, they're going to do something of high quality. But where are you going to be when that ball breaks? So that little bounce pass is so key to a midfield 2 as a double pivot, because if you don't play it, if Manuel Ugarte's playing there, you struggle, then the ball doesn't go into your number 9 and your number 10 fast enough to spring those counter-attacks. So, superb stuff.
Point number 4, pass the parcel. This is a concept that you've talked about quite a lot on Tactics Exposed and Team Talk in the past, about how important it is, particularly against teams, when defending against teams even like Manchester City, that man marking isn't always the answer. It's almost zonal and you just let the players move around you and mark your zone.
Yeah, and that's been a development of the game over the past 12 to 18 months, where lots more teams, especially away from home, try and go man v man and give those players that responsibility. But this Man United setup, obviously wanting to play on the counter-attack, you don't want to be man v man all the time, because then if there was one player playing man v man, which was Dorgu, and he was occupying Rico Lewis, because Rico Lewis was the one that gives the extra body in the Man City midfield. So if you stop him being the extra body in that midfield, and you know they've got two at the back, and then, as I say, Bruno and Mbeumo have dropped off, letting Husinov and Max Zelaine have the ball, you've got more players the other side. So you don't need to be man v man. You can then shuffle across and keep that overload everywhere else. And Maguire and Martinez did an absolute... I mean, 6'3" Erling Haaland has been bullied by 5'7", Martinez in this game, hasn't he?
Martinez 1, Paul Scholes 0.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And Maguire, the comms from Maguire, one of the reasons I mentioned that we might see Maguire come back into this team, and to do that after being out injured for so long, by the way, whoa, what a brilliant effort, like proper, talismanic performance.
And they're going to get rid of him in the summer.
If he plays like that, you can't get rid of him.
Give him another year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know what you're going to get when he comes in, don't you? Especially in a back four, right? And that what they did though, there's a really, really good grab to show this, is that pass the parcel. So Harry Maguire, the ball comes over to Man United's right, City attacking on the left. Harry Maguire comes across and is on the right corner of the penalty area, about where he should be. Then you've got the Man United midfield players who see the space and they drop in the gap to cover that space because Martinez is marking Haaland. So great, he's got Haaland, we've covered the space. Man City, as they do, recycle possession, go round the outside, and then 4 or 5 seconds later, Martinez has moved across to fill the gap on the left. Kobbie Mainoo's going over to fill the gap, and Maguire's got Haaland. So pass the parcel and know that you've got the space and the man covered. Because if all of a sudden you just park somebody on Haaland, he's going to just lead you on a little merry dance, as we've seen him do in weeks before, where he's made a run and Reinders has run in, or Cherky's run off him, or Foden scored because Haaland's taken you in a different direction. Man United didn't allow that to happen, and because of that 4-4-2 setup and the way they worked the press, that meant they had extra men all over the place and they used it.
Right, you've mentioned him there, Dino. Who let the dog out? Patrick Dorgu, outstanding performance on that left wing, outstanding goal as well, of course, to make it 2-0. He looked pretty delighted. You were very, very impressed.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, that man-mark job on Rico Lewis, it also meant he could spring it the other way, and that was part of the plan. You make sure Lewis can't play in that mid-zone, and when we drop into our 4-4-2 mid-block, and then when we win it back, you're going to beat him in a race. And that's what he did. And the impressive thing about it gives them balance on that side, left footer on the left, and putting crosses across the face of goal. And there was an early chance where Bruno makes that little darting run in behind, Dorgu goes round, Bruno pays him in, they get a cross across the face of goal, and it was actually well defended by Man City. And by the way, Donnarumma had a great game in this, a really, really good game, and they had their goalkeeper to thank for keeping the score down. But Dorgu's direct running, and it was like when he was playing wing-back, and you've got Amad Diallo and Dorgu, who are the wing-backs under Amorim, they're playing as the out-and-out wingers, and it was almost like freeing them of all that responsibility. But also, because of what they've learned under Amorim and that wing-back system, they were then able to mark those full-backs coming back. And one of the questions in the comments was about how come United looked wider when, in possession than Amorim's 3-4-3. You would think the wing-backs occupy the width. And it was partly because of Dorgu and it was partly because of Dalot. So on one side, when they win the ball back, Dorgu goes up left because Luke Shaw wasn't. He was staying as almost the third centre-back. And on the other side, Dalot ran up the underlap channel, which allowed Amad Diallo to hold his width. And then, of course, you've got Bruno and Mbeumo up front, so you get your 5-man attack. And for Dorgu's goal, they'd made a couple of substitutions by then, but you could see that there was that 5-man attack in the line. Cunha gets up the outside, and by the way, there it is. Rico Lewis versus Patrick Dorgu at the back post, and Dorgu wins it and scores the crucial second goal. So excellent performance. I think we're going to see a bit more of him as a winger in the next few weeks.
Nice one, Dino. And the drama does not stop there, of course, because Manchester United go to Arsenal at the Emirates on Sunday afternoon. We, of course, will be covering that on Tactics Exposed Team Talk on Thursday. So thanks for watching this video. United fans, make sure you're here on Thursday for Team Talk. Let us know what you think of what Dino's had to say in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you Thursday.